what I have come to realize, I think I realized it early on when shortly after Trump announced that he was going to run for the presidency. I didn't realize it, but I had a suspicion. This son of a bitch is nothing, it has no respect for the law whatsoever. And his minions have no respect for the law. None. Zero. It became clear that my early suspicions, were absolutely bullseye during the impeachment hearings when certain scum that worked for this filthy bastard were subpoenaed. Now, we talked about it at the time. They ignored the subpoenas, of course, just more or less told the Congress to go fuck itself. But we talked about this at the time, about how if you're subpoenaed to appear in court and you don't show up, there's going to be a marshal come out to your house and arrest your ass. Very simple. Trump, of course, being the scum, filthy pig that he is, never had any use for the just application of the law at all. He uses the law in order to avoid his responsibilities or his obligations or what he's supposed to do as an American citizen. This is really an evil, filthy man. I mean, just corrupt, with no soul whatsoever. His offspring, listen to his adult sons. I mean, they sound like little junior Nazis, which is exactly what they are. And his arrogant, elitist wife. Oh, my God, these people. But it became clear during the Trump administration that respect for the law ended when this son of a bitch became president. And yet, the latest Gallup polls show that 3 out of 4 Republicans still want this unconscionable, law-breaking son of a bitch to be the president of the United States. Man, I would just say to people who declare themselves to be Republican and who answer the polls that way, just a simple question. What the fuck is wrong with you? Are you crazy? Are you insane? Is this what you teach your little Christian children? Is this what you learned in Sunday school? Is this what your preacher talks about? No, I bring up all that Christian shit because 99% of these people are Christian. Whew. Unbelievable stuff. But the criminality of starting with Steve Bannon, and listen, Steve Bannon is going to turn out to be this Svengali or whoever, whatever historical figure from literature or from actual history you want to assign to this son of a bitch who whispers into the emperor or the empress's ear with all this crazy shit and then gets it done. That's Bannon. That's Bannon. Yesterday, Republican Representative Liz Cheney, who is the on the committee investigating what happened with the January 6th invasion of our country by slime, by scum, who actually live here. She's the co-chair, right? Or the, what do you call it? The assistant chairperson? I don't know. The second in command. Anyway, she really went after Steve Bannon because of his refusal to cooperate with the House committee investigating the riot. And she said, as a lot of people are saying, that, this asshole, this bum-looking Steve Bannon, I mean, can't you just clean up a little bit, you scum bastard? I realize you're a Nazi, but, your models in the German Nazi party or the Italian fascist party, they always looked really, really spick and span, didn't they? So what about their murderous occupation? Can't you do the same thing, Bannon, for fuck's sake? I mean, can you shave one? Brush your teeth. I can't imagine what this man's breath smells like. Woo! And that matted hair? What's in there? Come on, Bannon. Shampoo. Get the cockroaches out. Put on some clothing that looks like you didn't sleep in them. Okay. I just get carried away, don't I? Oh. So Liz Cheney went after the scum for refusing to cooperate with the investigation. And she pointed out the obvious that other people are, like I've already pointed out, like I said, that his claim of executive privilege is not only bullshit, but it suggests that Trump was personally involved in the planning and execution of the riot. I mean, why else? Bannon wants to be interviewed and questioned about his role in the riot, not about his role in corrupting American democracy or working very briefly for this asshole Trump. But the committee wants to ask him about his role in planning, organizing, executing this riot, this attack on the U.S. government. And he claims I can't talk about it because it would involve my conversations with the President of the United States about the riot. Uh-oh. Now, granted, this committee is still hearing witnesses. They haven't provided any evidence directly linking the scum, the orange vomit, to the efforts to overthrow the U.S. government. But Liz Cheney's comments show a suspicion among members of this committee that Trump is attempting to conceal communications between him and whoever that would be very incriminating for Trump. Why, no kidding. I mean, is there anybody? Come on. I'm not talking about Republicans. Republican Christian fascists are beyond the pale. They live in I don't know, some kind of a envelope of time space that we can't communicate with them. But I would ask anybody listening to this podcast, do you have any doubt whatsoever regarding the Orange Vomit's direct involvement in what happened on January 6th? Of course you don't. And neither do I. Of course he was involved. Now, Trump is certainly not the brightest bulb in the marquee. He is a dumb son of a bitch, but he knows how to do shit like this. He knew what he was doing. Well, if they're not going to go along with my claims, then I'll just have the government overthrown. Oh, my God. Anyway, Liz Cheney said this yesterday, quote, Mr. Bannon's and Mr. Trump's privilege arguments do appear to reveal one thing. They suggest that President Trump was personally involved in the planning and execution of January 6th, and we will get to the bottom of that, end quote, Liz Cheney. Boo, boo, boo. Now, today, the chairman of that committee, Representative Benny Thompson of Mississippi, expanded on what Cheney meant when she said that evidence suggests that Trump was personally involved in planning and execution. And Thompson, I'm sure he has a reason for doing this, but he kind of backpedaled a little bit. He said, quote, I think plan is a relative term. Thompson said, there's no question he tweeted about it in the very beginning. The majority of the people in this country didn't know what January 6th was all about when he did it. He created the narrative up to the point, planned the rally, and obviously he said, you need to go to the Hill and let people know you don't like what's going on. So people left the rally that he had invited them to, and they came to the Hill, and the rest we saw with our own eyes. Okay, what is Representative Thompson saying? I'm not sure either. But anyway, Liz Cheney was being very, very direct. And her words were kind of indirect, but she was very direct in the indirectness of what she was saying. N'est-ce pas? Her remarks came during last night's meeting of this committee. And this is when they approved, unanimously, of course, a vote of 9-0, a criminal contempt report to go to the full House on Bannon. And that sets up a vote from the full House tomorrow, Thursday. Now, Representatives Cheney and Thompson both said during yesterday's meeting that this committee believes Bannon has significant knowledge about the planning, who was involved, what was discussed, just the whole thing. I mean, this thing did not happen spontaneously, obviously. So who knew what when? That's what they're trying to get to. And members of the committee know that both Bannon and Trump are involved up to their goddamn eyeballs in organizing this. They know it, but because they're conducting an investigation, they're not going to say. They come right out and say what they're starting to understand. And both Cheney and Thompson said during yesterday's meeting that the panel believes Bannon has all this knowledge of the planning. And both Cheney and Thompson, the committee chair and vice chair, said that they expect the Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, to prosecute once the U.S. House tomorrow formally votes on a criminal referral. Now, you know what the House vote is going to be, don't you? You already know what it is. Every single Democrat will vote to refer this to the Justice Department. Every single scum-sucking Christian fascist will vote not to. So we already know what the vote's going to be. But Cheney said this, too. She said, quote, based on the committee's investigation, it appears that Mr. Bannon had substantial advanced knowledge of the plans for January 6th and likely had an important role in formulating those plans, end quote. She goes on, quote, the day before this all occurred, on January 5th, Mr. Bannon publicly professed knowledge that, quote, all hell is going to break loose tomorrow, end quote, Steve Bannon. He forecast that the day would be, quote, extraordinarily different, end quote, from what most Americans expected. He said to his viewers on the air, quote, so many people said, if I was in a revolution, I would be in Washington. Well, this is your time in history, end quote, Steve Bannon, as quoted by Liz Cheney. And if you've been watching anything on CNN and MSNBC covering this, you've seen that tape, that video where this filthy-looking stumble bum, Steve Bannon, who shouldn't be underestimated by any means. He is a stumble bum, but he's a very smart one in a very malevolent sort of way. He's evil. I mean, these people are evil. I've said before, for years and years and years, I didn't want to use the term evil because to me it was more of a religious term than a political term. But now I realize that I was going off with my head up my ass. Of course these people are evil. They're evil in the same way that any dictator, any fascist, any Nazi, any mass killer, any member of the hierarchy of the church, as they have been evil in their attacks on human beings, in their attacks on justice and freedom and decency and morality. Yes, they're evil. The problem with saying evil, of course, is once you've labeled something evil, and this is thanks to the church, all these terms came from religion, I understand that. But once something is identified as evil, then it's open season on that thing. If it's evil, it doesn't have a right to exist. I mean, that's what the church told us for millennia. It's evil. Burn it at the stake. It's evil. Cut its head off. Draw and quarter it. Divide its body into 5 parts and spread them around the empire. It's evil. Kill it. Put a stake in its heart. Evil. Evil. This is what, this is what we were taught by religion. So I tended to stay away from that term for the obvious reasons. The most obvious being that it was a subjective interpretation. What's evil? Somebody that takes some plants out of the forest and turns it into a tonic that cures stomach cramps? Is that evil? Well, at one time, that's exactly how it was labeled. That type of person doing that sort of thing. So I stay away from it. But these people, in a very definitive way, because they are so destructive, for me, classify as evil. Evil.
Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.